So why are we here today? First of all, we're going to go over the agenda, talk about short-term rentals today. We're going to talk a little bit about what you guys are hearing, feeling, and what's going on in the community. And we're going to do a survey today to kind of respond to a few of those different things. So first of all, we want your input. This is our community, and we're reaching out to the community with 5 different community meetings throughout the city of Temecula. And it really consists of 2 parts of this outreach. It's going to first be data collection. That's what we're doing here today. And a survey that's online for people that attend here, as well as people who would like to participate in the survey online. Second, we've got to develop policies based on that community feedback. A little bit more details about the different phases of this process. First, we're going to have the meetings and surveys. We'll have subcommittee meetings, and that includes our Planning Commission subcommittee and our City Council subcommittee. We're going to have a summary report and presentations that take all of this information and summarize it and make it available to the public so that you can see what the community thinks beyond just this single meeting, and that the policymakers have those pieces of information as well. And then finally, there will be meetings with the Planning Commission. Those will be a public hearing. And the City Council will have a meeting that is also a public hearing. So you have multiple opportunities for your input today, at future community meetings, online in the survey, and as the Planning Commission and City Council meetings. So remember, you have multiple opportunities. The second part is, again, policy development. We do not have a policy today. We do not have a direction on our policy today. We're coming to you to hear what you want in your policy in this community. Second is, based on whatever that policy may be, whether it's stringent or lenient, we have to evaluate what resources we need and what it costs to make sure that we're enforcing that policy adequately. So a little short-term rental 101. What are short-term rentals? Most everyone in this room is probably aware of that, but we just want to make sure we cover it again. It's a rental of a residence for a short period, generally less than 30 days, and this could be a room, casita, or it could be an entire house. What do Airbnb and other short-term platforms do? They essentially provide a marketplace for short-term rentals, and they've made it a lot easier than it ever was. There's a lot of different short-term rental companies. There's not just Airbnb. While Airbnb is the prominent marketplace, there's several other organizations that are providing these services as well. Here's an example listing of a short-term rental. This is where you can put in where you want to go, the stay, how many people you'd like to stay. And then there's also maps that show you what part of the community you want to stay in. What's the rate? Show me some photos of what this house or facility looks like. A little bit of market context. Short-term rental market has grown about 800% since 2011. The market is fragmenting, and then we talked about the different marketplaces that are going, so you've got more than just Airbnb. And vacation rental websites have turned into a booming market. It's really an unregulated economy here in Temecula. How many short-term rentals do we think are in the city right now? We have an estimate of about 300 to 500 that fluctuates based on the season. We obviously have a tourism economy here in Temecula, and that includes weddings, weekend gatherings, the casino, pachanga, tournaments, a variety of different factors that are included with that tourism economy. This is a sample map of the short-term rental listings. This is from June 2017, and this is what the city was doing some analysis and kind of figuring out what's going on with short-term rentals at the start. So the various different dots on there represent whether it was a casita, whether it was a full home, and the different factors that are associated with it. What are we hearing thus far? Well, we're obviously hearing some negative things, and that includes we've had a lot of noise issues. We've had trash issues, parking, and safety issues in our community. We're hearing it. We heard it at our first meeting. We expected to hear it again, but please continue to let us know what you're feeling. What are we hearing on kind of the positive part of it? We're hearing that this is a tourism economy, and this is part of our economic development. We had 1.2 million visitors to the Temecula Valley. These are the tourism revenue goes to businesses, small, big, large, bakeries, wineries, etc. And for some people, this is a form of supplemental income. So maybe they're renting out a casita and they want to put that towards their mortgage. So there's a lot of variety of factors on both sides of the issue. How does the city currently regulate short-term rentals? Currently, they're prohibited. They're not allowed. But right now, the city has very limited tools for enforcement. We don't have a lot of stiff penalties or a progression of 3 strikes that we heard about at the last meeting. We don't have those things in place. The city does allow for a bed and breakfast with a conditional use permit, but that requires a lot size of approximately 60,000 square feet or larger, and it does require a public hearing for the conditional use permit. So how do we respond to complaints currently? Complaints are driven by code enforcement. You call us up, you say, hey, we have an issue, there's trash, there's noise, and then they respond when they can. Again, sometimes when there's noise, our code enforcement team may not be able to respond until the next day. These regulations that we originally developed for short-term rentals were developed long before the sharing economy. So they don't work as fast as we may need them to, and they just don't fit today's issues. What about HOAs? That's one of the questions that we receive a lot of information about. HOAs can always restrict something above and beyond the city. So they can be more restrictive than the city, but they cannot be more permissive than the city. So if, for instance, the city were to say, you cannot have short-term rentals in the city, an HOA could not come in and say, you can have short-term rentals. Let's say the city said, you can have short-term rentals in the city. An HOA could then come in and say, but not in our HOA. So just to explain how that works with HOAs in the city. The city cannot enforce CC&Rs. So we don't have the ability to come in and say, you're violating that HOA's CC&Rs, so we're gonna come and regulate that. We don't have that ability. What about other cities? Well, we've heard from all over the country and in many cities in California, there is no one-size-all-fits approach to this issue. San Diego just adopted their regulations yesterday. After many, many meetings, San Francisco's adopted regulations, so there's a wide range of how those regulations are coming into play. We need to tailor our regulations, whatever they may be, to our community, and that's why we're here today, is to get your input on what those regulations are gonna look like. We have this flyer that's going around. We have some additional flyers on the back. This is the second of 5 community meetings that we are having throughout the city. So please feel free to take that flyer and hand it out to your friends or neighbors or any other interested parties. We also have a website that's been developed for this. It's temeculaca.gov/TemeculaRentals. We have social media, and of course, we have our survey that's on our website as well. So this is the fun part where you get to provide us some public comments. We do have some ground rules for the public comment portion of this. We ask that you please fill out a speaker slip. Those are going to be available back with Lynn. Please be respectful to everybody else. We ask that you understand that everybody comes from a different dinner table. Please hold your comments to 3 minutes. We'll wave and say, all right, you're almost down with time, that we allow everybody the opportunity to speak tonight. We're going to ask that you please use a thumbs down or thumbs up if you want to support or be against something. And the reason we're doing that is so that we can continue to record and get good video and audio recordings of this meeting. That way, when our staff is analyzing this information later, we can actually hear what's going on. So thumbs up if you support something, thumbs down if you're not, and we'll have staff taking notes throughout the meeting to make sure that we see what the group is feeling on these issues. What I'm gonna do right now is, I just wanna remind you, we are taking a survey at the end, so please don't leave after the public comment portion of this meeting, all right? Please don't leave after the public comment portion of this meeting. That survey is very important to us. And with that, Lynn, do we have a first public comment?
Test, test, perfect. Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to our second short-term rentals meeting. If you have not filled out a speaker slip, you can change your mind throughout the meeting. They're over here, and just feel free to give it to me when you have a chance. I also apologize in advance if I butcher your name. Just a reminder, we do have 3 minutes each to speak, and our first speaker is Andrew Georgitsis.
Okay, well, thank you so much. My name is Andrew Georgitsis, and I am a Airbnb owner here in Temecula, so just to put that out there. And one of the things that I wanted to do was share a different perspective from where we come from, owning an Airbnb here in Temecula versus what I saw at last week's meeting where there was a lot of negative comments. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about this week about some of the positive things. And to do that, I wanted to talk a little bit about our history. So I was looking to invest in property, and I've invested in Oceanside and throughout those areas, and mostly long-term rental. And when I started doing the numbers and looking at the $400,000 to $500,000 investment, I started seeing that what I get for long-term rental is not quite enough to cover my mortgage and my insurance and of course my property taxes. So I was like, Then I started talking to some long-term rental owners, and they were having all kinds of problems. They were having, one guy, for example, he had drug dealers and people cooking meth in his house, and then he had the SWAT team come and haul off them three different occasions. Another guy had, abusive people, and the police kept coming, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, man, I don't know if I want to get involved with this. So then I started looking at the short-term rental model, and I started saying, hey, there's a bit of money in this model. Let me look around at that. And one thing I noticed about the short-term rental is that as a short-term rental, it's a community that's self-governing. In other words, my reviews and what I do with the house are reflected publicly. And so what happens is I have to take a home that's run down and beat up, and the SWAT team came in and kicked the door down, and I have to bring it up. And the first thing that's a very important thing to remember is I don't do it in an HOA. So the HOAs around Temecula, which is over 80 to 90% of Temecula, don't allow Airbnbs. So much of Temecula is protected. I went into non-HOA communities. And you can drive around a non-HOA community, and you can see the difference between HOA and non-HOA. It's stark. And I'm like, okay. So I'm going to buy this house that's run down, beat up by a long-term renter, and I'm going to have to put $50,000 into this house, which I did. Bring the house up, repaint it, and all that. Something a long-term renter owner will not do because he doesn't have that income. He doesn't make enough money to cover the 50 grand to bring up this home. So my first home stood out like a sore thumb. It was this beautifully, immaculately painted, awesome home amongst thorns. My neighbor's dog barking, the lawn was brown, the pool was green. I actually had to send in my people to look after his home so I didn't get bad reviews. This is what I'm talking about. So the Airbnb did this. Then I needed to have a full-time employee. So I was looking around and I found a person who was homeless. She was down there at Pat and Oscar's. I provided her a job. She gets $4,500 a month. Right? That's $4,500 she puts towards rent. She buys a car. She now lives a full life, and she's proud of the home she looks after. She became a home manager. Then, of course, I had to hire a person with the lawn. I had to hire a pool person, and so on and so on and so on. So I'm providing jobs to the community. And this is something that a lot of people forget, is that the Airbnb is not just about, there's a noise complaint or trash and stuff like that. Sure, we try to regulate that. In fact, we formed an alliance called the Short-Term Rental Alliance of Temecula. And you can look it on the web, Temecula.com. And you can see that we adhere to many, many policies and rules, and that we want to work with the government to do it. So, thank you.
Maybe we should take a photo the next time. The next speaker we have is Jessica Abrego.
Is this on? There we go. Okay, my name is Jessica, and I'm also an Airbnb owner. I'm a single mom. I have 2 little girls, and the Airbnb world has opened up my world. I own a little 3-bedroom house, 2-bathroom, and that home has allowed me to purchase a second home and now purchase a 3rd home. So I am a single mom. I have no alimony, no child support, no nothing. And I also go to church here in town, and I hire all single moms to clean my homes. And we do W-9s, we make it honest, they pay taxes, and we make sure that it's legit. Everything is honest, everything is paid the way it should. So I just want to say that as an Airbnb owner myself, it has opened up so many doors, and I have helped so many other friends who are in similar situations as I am to get and do something bigger than just being a single mom. You know, it's opened up so many doors. And I understand we have noise complaints, and those neighbors are gone in 2 days. And unfortunately, we get new ones, and we have policies. We've joined forces, and we have a 10 o'clock curfew. We charge our owners $500 if the police have to show up. We're not playing around. We're not messing. We don't want to disturb your lives. That's not our plan. Our plan is just to make some income, set up my own retirement, give my kids a house when they graduate college. So we do want to hear your complaints, and we do want to, help you and make sure that you are able to sleep through the night, that you're not worrying about, 100 cars in the parking lot, you can't find no one park, they're blocking your own stall. And hopefully, you're able to talk to the owners who have those homes and make sure that that's not an issue. And, we want to open up the communication and to, if you have something like that, come talk to us. And we're here to help. We're not here to, make your life a living hell. That's the last thing we want. So, and I just want to make sure, I also have a website, and I partner with a bunch of short-term or a bunch of local businesses in town, so that, if you want to get a massage or if you want to get Botox or whatever, everyone here is local in town, and they go to the homes and they offer those services. And so it's keeping the money local. I get local coffee, I get local tea, I have everything local, because I want them to have that local experience. I want them to I partner with wineries. I get the buy one, get one gift cards. I want it to be a local experience. And so my plan is to keep everything in Temecula. I'm not trying to make everybody, the big honchos rich. Keep the small people making it happen. So thank you very much.
Next up, we have Robert Schneider.
Oh, hello. My name is Bob Schneider. I was here last meeting, and I think that most of those changes was because of me, the 3 minutes and the thumbs up and down. But in either case, we've lived in Temecula since 2003, and pretty much getting from last week's meeting on really what the problems were, and I didn't really get a real good handle of what the problems really are. And so I just marked down the noise. That is probably, at least for me, because every individual is different. My problems are different than her problems, and the way I feel about those problems are different than somebody else's. So I can only speak for myself. The parking, the element, which is really, I'm not, one gal had said about the element and concern of who's going to be next door. I don't really have a concern about that. And the one thing, though, that I found out is I didn't understand why a realtor has to disclose that it's an Airbnb to a prospective buyer, which is obviously going to affect the value of my home. That is very, very important. I just didn't understand, though, of why it is. Why is it in there? And the bottom line is, it's in there because it's a negative. It is a negative. It's not a positive. Any disclosure is a negative. So what I did was, I wasn't good on going over maybe solutions that I felt. Pretty much I resent even having to be here tonight. I was forced to be here because of my next door person. So I'm trying to figure out who's going to fix the problem. Is the owner going to fix the problem? No. Because I'm going to tell you right now, my dealings is the guests run it. You can give all the fines you want, you can do whatever you want, but it's the guests that are going to control the situation. Speaking of the guest, I just got to read, and I know I'm going to run out of 3 minutes, but this is important. This is a Yelp on my next door neighbor, my next door Airbnb. So long story short, the property is nice, but if you have any interest in enjoying your nice backyard or hot tub after 10 p.m., look for another location. Bingo. That's what they every guest that goes in there, or I say most guests, that's what they want. This is a party house, all right? And I live next door to a party house. The police. I called the police numerous times. They basically have told me that they're renters, and they basically felt, what can we do? They're renting. So the police are out. The Airbnb, they wouldn't return my calls. The city of Temecula, God, I hope you do something. I hope you gather something where you can formulate and get these things under control, because if you don't think it's a problem, it's not going to be a problem. You have to acknowledge the problem. And myself, these are the entities that I'm involved in, and who's going to take care of it is myself. Our firm has retained Robert Schneider with regard to the private nuisance that you have permitted on your property. Every property owner is required to comply with city zoning and permitting regulations, which include assuring that persons occupying the property do not interfere with the quiet use and enjoyment of neighbors. This is a Temecula municipal code. This is an enforcement that isn't being enforced.
Wrap up your comments. You're at your 3 minutes.
You don't give enough time. You really don't. You really don't. But in either case, the solutions, the parking's an easy one. They just park in front of the house only, the driveway and the house. The noise, you got to have rules.
Thank you. Just a reminder, oh, sorry, go ahead. Also, if 3 minutes is not enough, we do encourage you to email your concerns, or if you're supportive of short-term rentals, that as well. We encourage any feedback, and we do have a survey, so we do encourage a lot of different formats of feedback, not just public comment during this meeting. Also, if you haven't filled out a speaker slip and you would like to speak, there's still plenty of time to do so. And our next speaker is Deborah Yambayas.
Hi, I'm Deborah Lambias. I am a resident and a realtor here in town, so deal a lot with prospective buyers and people moving into the city, as well as large numbers of people actually leaving. So one of the things with Airbnb, I think there needs to be a policy in place. I think it needs to be treated as a business. It should be, people should be paying city taxes. I think the policy should be embracing the whole tourism economy and the development of this Temecula Valley. When I first came here, nobody had even knew Temecula existed. And now it's really on the map as a place, a destination, and a place to be. So instead of fighting it, why not just embrace it, regulate it, and let it contribute to the economy of the city and the growth of the city? HOAs are in place to take care of nuisances and areas where it has, they've always had strict rules. So, and the HOAs have no problem coming out and fining you if you have a weed this big on your driveway. So why wouldn't they enforce their own rules about short-term rentals instead of abdicating responsibility and turning around and putting it on the onus on the city to take care of it? So it's the city should put in place a policy and make it good for the city, make it good for the economy. And if people are living in an HOA, they shouldn't have to deal with people blatantly breaking the rules. But Airbnb owners can always, and have for the most part, take care to be out of HOA areas, to have less impact and not actually start a fight with an organization. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kat Bailey.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Kat Bailey, and I'm the owner and operator of Temecula Vacation Rentals. I started Bailey's Escape in 2005. I helped write the vacation rental codes in Riverside County. I don't currently have a property in Temecula because the infrastructure for the Temecula boundaries and the codes and those code enforcements weren't in place yet. But I will tell you about a successful vacation rental company and what Wine Country has done. So they have put into place the good neighbor. They have put into place the ordinances, the policing, that if you aren't notified within 60 days when a vacation rental is putting in an application down at the county, that you could be denied. So there is a right way to run a business and there's a wrong way. And if you're a neighbor who is consistently having loud parties and having people in your home or in your neighborhood, you're in the wrong neighborhood as a vacation renter. And I don't seek out as a business owner to go into those neighbors. So that is a deterrent. But why and what's the difference is because, number one, if you're looking for a vacation rental or you want that as an investment property, follow your HOA. There's rules and regulations in the communities for a reason. I have homeowners I have vacation rentals who have called me who have rented in Temecula, and they say, Kat, get me out of here. I was promised a wine country vacation rental home, and I'm listening to the neighbors in the cul-de-sac argue next door. If I wanted this, I'd have stayed home. So it's definitely tourism in the making. I will tell you that there are millions of dollars that are brought into Temecula that keep our parks, that keep our infrastructure, that keep all of the things that you have even here at Harveston. Those tax dollars that are earned by the tourism that comes into this community should be invited. I am telling you, when I started my vacation rental company in '05, I was a noob. I didn't know anything about what to expect. And in 12 years, now 13 of doing what I'm doing, I can continue to tell you that if you don't want a vacation rental company or a vacation renter next door to you, then do something about it. Sit with the city. Look for these task force and the things that are here now, just as I did as the treasurer for the Chamber of Commerce, just as I did as the treasurer for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and look for solutions. Because if you're going to sit in your backyard and you're going to say, I don't want this, and I don't want it because your neighbor's making money and you're not, that's not the solution. The solution is to sit down with the defined ordinance and say, oh, Quiet Ordinance 847 says at 10 p.m., we're calling. Guess what? In the county, they will call the police, and when the police are there, I have to have 24-hour service on call. She's sitting right there. And I'm telling you, that is shut down. And the other side of this is, if the person next to you is got a vacation rental and they're renting their house out for $100 a night and putting 15 people in there, that's a fire hazard. Why would you want that anyway? So the right way, the way that you do it is you follow with these. I applaud it. Like I said, I'm here because I love the community I raised my family in for 25 years. And this is what's called progress. So we either put your boots down or put on your big girl panties and get your ordinances. Put the things into effect that are already there for you. And you're right. If you're a realtor and you're saying to yourself, this is bringing your property values down, I wouldn't use that realtor. I'd say, you know what? If I'm in a property and it's an income-producing property, you should be advertising it correctly. And if you're in a neighborhood and you don't want a vacation rental there and it's not disclosed or it was disclosed, when the application comes to process, you have a moment right there to deny it. And don't let it be approved. It's in place. The things that are there are already in place. So I guess I'm saying two things. My piece of paper said, ask me anything. Ask me. Yeah.
Kat, I'm
not sure because
pause you here.
I'm sorry.
We're going to take community feedback. We can have
Okay.
some side dialogue.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I'm
We
open
will
for
have these
questions.
dialogues at another time, definitely, some roundtables, but
I'm
not
sorry.
today.
My apologies. Thank you for your time.
Again, just a reminder, if you have anything you'd like to speak for or against short-term rentals, please fill out a speaker request. Our next speaker is Teresa.
Hi, my name is Teresa, and I'm running an Airbnb. It supplements my income. Unfortunate circumstances has put me in control of my 6-year-old grandson, something that I did not expect. I do follow all the rules and all the regulations, and as an Airbnb owner, you can stipulate very strong rules, and Airbnb has been completely supportive. No noise after 10 o'clock, quiet hours, respect. If you do not like your guest, you just have them gone. Now, I've had renters that were monthly, and to get them out of your home is just so costly, and so it's just harsh, and then they destroy your home, they destroy your life, you're dragged through court, and the short-term rental is just really working for me. in the area that I live in, and I don't live in a very high area, but I've had nothing but respect, and I am so proud of our city. I give flyers and cards to all the wineries and all the beautiful things that we have to show here, and we have a lot of beauty here. So, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. Anyways, so I really do like the short-term rentals because it sure does help a heck of a lot better than the long-term rentals that I have ever experienced in my life. Thank you.
Our next speaker is George Nyota.
Hello, I'm George Nyota. I do sell real estate, but I also own rentals. So I just want to make a statement that I think everybody's has the right to make an income, whether it be Airbnb or VRBO or long-term rental. It comes down to the landlord and how they take care of the property, whether they're a good neighbor or a bad neighbor. If you live in an HOA, there shouldn't be an Airbnb next to you. So now you go to your HOA and complain. If you live in the county area, you're dealing with out of the city. So you're dealing with the county of Riverside, and as Kat said, they've got regulations already. Every business that's out there should be regulated. I think that's what the city's trying to do here, is regulate some income that's being made by people and get their piece of the pie. Maybe I'm seeing it differently.
We're just taking feedback
Okay,
right now.
all right, well, I see where the feedback's going. So, you know, I get it. Airbnbs bring people to the area. Tourism brings people to this area. I've been here since '98, so I've seen how it's grown. The wine country is amazing compared to where it was, so I'd like to see that continue. I think it needs to be regulated, and unfortunately, with the regulation comes costs and fees, and as I said earlier, there's going to have to be a task force, and who regulates and who goes out. It's going to cost money, so someone's going to pay for it. So I have no problem with the business. Get ready to get less profit, though. Sorry.
I only have one more speaker form, so my last reminder, if you would like to speak, oh, got it. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Christine Massa.
Well, I didn't think I was going to say anything, but I do not own a rental property. I'm in an HOA that does not restrict Airbnbs or short-term rentals because we don't believe in having CC&Rs that prevent a homeowner from having a home-based business, which is a stretch to what a short-term rental will be. But a couple of the issues that we have with Airbnbs and short-term rentals in our neighborhood I think require addressing from the city, and that's what I'd like to go on record tonight for. You know, we are always concerned about safety in our community, and we stress highly among our residents that they need to get to know their neighbors, and we stress neighborhood watches. When you have a high number of Airbnbs or short-term rentals in your area, it makes it impossible to know your neighbor. You're constantly living with a transient population, and that's a big concern to our residents. The second issue we have is with parking. We have at least one property that I know of, and likely more, where they rent out individual rooms as short-term rentals, which causes great problems with the street parking. So I think if the city is going to allow this and support it, the city and police department need to provide more patrols in areas where there are known a lot of short-term rentals.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Erica Garibay.
Hi, I am a resident of Temecula, and I've been a resident for over 12 years. I don't live in an HOA, and we have It's not the best of the neighborhoods, I agree. However, we still have the right to have the quality of life that we decided to buy into when we bought in Temecula. And so I think that there needs to be more responsibility from the homeowners. I understand that you all indicate that you're on top of it, but you're not there 24/7. And living next to an Airbnb has just been horrible. You know, we tried communication with not necessarily the owner, but the manager, and she was great. However, she wasn't always available. And so when things are happening at 10:30, 12, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we all have to go to work the next day, when I call the police, they don't show up for another 2 to 3 hours because it's not priority. You know, when I have had conversations with the actual renters, and we had a situation where there was parties Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We called the cops 3 out of those days. Not once was I contacted by the owner or the manager. And when I spoke to the renter, he said, I have the right. I was vacationing, I paid over $2,000, and I was made, you know, a promise that this was the perfect neighborhood to do it in. They had more than 50 people in the backyard every single one of those days. And it's ridiculous. I think homeowners need to take responsibility, and the city needs to, you know, take into consideration what we as those next door neighbors are going through. And I understand, you know, in regards to tourism, in regards to what's happening in the development of Temecula, I get that. But at the same time, I think the quality of life that we all, you know, came to Temecula for should be respected. And the homeowners need to be highly regulated to make sure that that doesn't, you know, happen in these neighborhoods where, you know, I just believe that the homeowners, they're here to, you know, do what they need to do. And if you are a homeowner that takes responsibility, great. But not everybody's like that. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Janice Knapp. Dale, I'll get you right there.
Okay, it's working. I also was impacted by a short-term vacation rental in Temecula. Definitely think the regulations. The issue we had for the first 6 months, we didn't even know how to contact the owner to complain. All we could do was call the police and everything else. For the person that said they have the $500, my comment is, have you ever shared that $500 with the neighbors when you charged it? Yeah, no, pizza's not good. 500, I mean, when you get woken up at 12 at night and you have to get up at 5 in the morning and you just charge them $500, how many people have gotten 500 because they charged it? Well, I mean, but that's the issue we come down to. It's you get woken up, you have to go back to sleep. 10 o'clock for curfew is too late if you have kids. They have to go to school. All of those things going in there, I mean, it's great to regulate it. I was glad to hear someone say 16 is way too many. Ours had 20 guests next door. So fire regulations, all those things, not responsible, not having contact information, not knowing who to call except for the police. I don't know, but so it is negative in my view. I am not very happy. I was one of the very first persons that went to the city of Temecula and spoke with some of the people here, the officials here, because the first one said, you could even have 20 people and have a party there and they'd charge you $10 for each guest over 20. Yeah, special events, wedding rehearsals. Regulation is there, but I am negative against it because it's impacted our family significantly. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Blake Morlett.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. I'm Blake Morlett. I have heard a couple great points made by both sides, I think, today. One thing that I wanted to make a few points. One, everyone's home is their biggest investment generally, so it's important to them. I'm capitalistic, I own my own business, so I'm all for that. But I think this all comes down to accountability. So whether or not there's regulations on the book, whether or not the owners, there's only a few here that have these businesses, but there's a lot of them that aren't here, that don't care, that may not even live in our state. So what is the city going to do to look at holding people accountable for these rules? Because calling the sheriff, unless there's a violent situation, isn't going to help. So that, to me, that's the most important thing that the city should look at and determine, you know, if there's going to be a use fee or a city tax, have those dollars go to some sort of entity that could hold these people accountable so that people can enjoy their home, and like others have said, some of us have to beat the traffic in the morning to San Diego at 4:30. So a party at 1 in the morning, while it's not an inconvenience to the owner, and they may make more money off someone having that party, there's nothing that stopped it. The sheriff shows up, but we all know that have dealt with them, they're too busy, or they don't have the resources, or, you know, there's no accountability throughout the bureaucracy that we deal with. So having that in place and whatever's developed, I think is important.
Again, I'm down to one last speaker. So if you've changed your mind and you would like to speak, we still have forms over on the table when you first signed in. And our next speaker is Larry Nordstrom. Oh, here, I'll get it.
Thank you. I'm a little unprepared for this meeting because I wasn't really sure what it was all about till I came, and I'm looking at your presentation. I was taken that currently the city of Temecula regulation is they're prohibited to having this type of business. So I find it interesting that almost every speaker who was speaking in favor of Airbnb was saying how they abide by all the regulations, yet the first regulation is you're not allowed to do this, and yet they're conducting this business. So I find that rather interesting. As a homeowner, somebody mentioned, this is your biggest investment. This is my biggest investment, and I treasure, you know, my neighbors, the peace and quiet that I enjoy. Having somebody coming and going, I think would be very disruptive in a residential area. And if you're going to have a regulation beyond what you already have, which is currently prohibited, and I'm totally in favor of the prohibition, but if you are going to regulate it strictly enough that people can enjoy their quality of life they have in their home. That's my comment.
And our new last speaker is Rudy Navarro.
I'll go with the flow. So I don't have an Airbnb. There is a brand new Airbnb that came across the street from us. We thankfully haven't had any issues. And I think because the price point is set higher, I asked one of the renters once, I'm like, I saw a lot of fancy cars coming and going. And so I'm like, just out of curiosity, because I'm a nosy neighbor, how much do they charge? I think it was Mother's Day weekend. She said, oh, well, for 2 nights, they charge us $900. Like, okay. Never had a party, never had an issue. Again, it's always been very peaceful. The interesting comment that I heard, and I've heard it twice, that the police is too busy. What kind of crime is in Temecula? I'm from East LA. There's a reason I live here. I believe that the Sheriff's Department does have the resources. I think that as residents, maybe we should put, if this is going to continue with short-term rentals, whatever your opinion is, the police oversight should be there. There needs to be a better pool of resources, maybe not so many motors and more patrols. I think we have way too many motors in the city as it is, and I think the city's adding, I think, another 2 or 3 motors. Completely, we should put it towards patrol, especially if the city's going to want to get their piece of the pie, which I assume they're possibly going to want to do that. So that's it. Thank you.
That wraps up our speakers. Brandon, back to you.
First of all, thank you all for your feedback. Really appreciate it. I know it's not easy to get up and speak in front of a bunch of people, so we really do appreciate it. If you're uncomfortable speaking in front of people, feel free to shoot us an email, complete that survey, get that information to us one way or another. It's important. I'm going to introduce Casey in just a second from HARC. She's with our consultant that's doing the survey, so we'll do that in a second. So please don't leave until you complete the survey. But I do want to talk about our next steps before we start the survey. First of all, we're going to be taking additional feedback. We talked about on the website. We talked about additional forms, planning commission, city council meeting. We're reiterating this because we want you to know you have multiple venues to come communicate and provide your input. Second is we're going to have additional information on our city website. The last meeting is actually already on the website, so you can go to temeculaca.gov/Temecula Rentals, and you can see each meeting on there, the recording of the meeting. And we'll have information about planning commission dates, city council dates, and any other type of forums we may hold. Now it's survey time, so I'm going to turn it over to Casey, who's going to handle our survey. And with that,
hello, good evening. So thank you for all your comments. We really appreciate the feedback, and we will review it later. So know that everything that you said will, again, be taken into consideration. That information will be synthesized. But we want to also get your feedback in the form of a survey. If you've already taken the short-term rental survey, you don't need to take it again. So this will be the last order of business. You're free to leave at this point, okay? This survey is available online at SurveyMonkey. You may have seen it on the short-term rental website, on the Temecula website. So if you've already taken it there, you're good. If you'd like to take the survey, all you need is a device of some sort. So a phone, iPad, fax machine connected to the internet, anything fancy that you can go to the internet. So you'll want to pull up your internet browser, either Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, whatever it is you go to Google things, and you'll just type in www.slido.com. From there, it'll ask for your event code, and you'll want to type in TEM1. I think you can do it either way, but all caps will get you there. Once you do that, the survey should be right in front of you. You can go through each question, and you can then, once you've completed the survey, you hit enter, and it'll submit the data. Just so you know, all the information is completely anonymous. I get all that data, and it will not be connected to you in any way. I can't track where you came from. It never asks for your name. It's quite anonymous. If you're unsure of what district you're in, there are some maps in the back. You can just skip that question if you're not in the district. If you need a paper survey, there are paper surveys in the back of the room. They're available for you. We have pens, papers. And raise your hand if you have a question on how to log into the system, and we'll help you, okay? Once you complete the survey, you're welcome to leave. We'll be around for questions if you need anything answered.